Mars. Somewhere in the offices of Friend Industries, someone looked at the largest volcano in the solar system and thought, let's shoot a pink laser into it. And that's how Mars was woken up. It was completely minding its own business, as a planet should, until Project Phobos arrived in the picture and blasted a Katy Perry-colored beam directly into Olympus Mons, finally waking up the red giant. And here's the thing, there's almost nothing remotely interesting about the planet anyway. As the fourth one in the solar system, it's a cold, barren desert world that has temperatures as volatile as a Karen who realized her pumpkin spice latte doesn't have extra sugar. But what makes this planet interesting isn't just the waking up part. It's the fact that Mars had been cosmically ignored twice before Friend Industries got involved. The 10,000 BC flashback in episode 7 confirms that during the lunar progenitor invasion of the solar system, not a single progenitor stopped at Mars's orbit. Every other planet got visited, infected through their moons, and slowly turned sentient over thousands of years, while Mars just sat there completely untouched. Then, in the secret tapes, a space probe observes Mars on July 9th, 1967, and finds absolutely nothing. No atmospheric shifts, no surface activity, nothing. While Jupiter, observed just 2 months later on September 5th, already had its eyes briefly cracking open. So the question is why? Well, the most likely answer is Phobos and Deimos. Mars's two moons are tiny and irregular, barely qualifying as moons by any serious definition, which means the lunar progenitors probably looked at them and decided they weren't worth the effort. Thalaan. If you think having one moon crash into your planet is bad, Thalaan had two, and it's been walking around with both of them stuck in its face ever since. Thalaan is a desert exoplanet in the Nix quadrant, and that distinctive yellow color it carries isn't actually natural. It's the permanent atmospheric damage left behind by two moons that crashed into it thousands of generations ago. But despite the rough start, Thalaan is home to the Valari, an alien humanoid species that developed eerily similar features to humans. Stargoose 6 discovers the planet when their scanners pick up faint signs of biological life, and later on, the crew lands near a small Valari village to restock their moon juice supply. Later on, Thalaan will actually wake up because it actually reached the final incubation period triggered by the impact of its moons. However, it gets terminated immediately. An anomalous alien starship fires a red projectile straight into Thalaan's mouth, eyes and mouth going bright red for a few seconds before going completely dark. In the end, what's left of Thalaan is just a background character waiting to get plucked by a taxman, which is genuinely one of the bleakest fates in the entire series. Unnamed Gas Dwarf. The Unnamed Gas Dwarf is a rogue planet, meaning it doesn't orbit any star. It was discovered on the other side of the Friend Gate when Stargoose 4 and 6 first crossed through, completely alone out there with no history or context the show gives us about where it came from. It has an orange surface with dark red bands running across it, sitting somewhere in size between a rocky planet and a full gas giant. That changes when the cephalopodon lunar progenitor shows up beside it, gives birth to a sentient moon, and deposits it directly into the gas dwarf's orbit. Once placed, the newborn moon transitioned back into its dormant, unawakened state, going quiet the same way every other sleeping celestial body in the show does before something terrible wakes them up. Whether the gas dwarf itself eventually wakes up or plays a bigger role later in the series, we don't know yet. For now, it's completely unbothered. Neptune. Neptune is an ice giant that orbits the sun once every 165 years, which sounds peaceful until you realize it spent most of that time asleep with a cosmic parasite lodged in its orbit. See, back in 10,000 BC, the lunar progenitors showed up and swapped out Neptune's original moon Triton with a sentient knockoff, like getting your kidney replaced with, another kidney, but this time it hates you. Fast forward to the present, and Neptune wakes up fully infected, sporting the signature grin and likely keeping Triton stored in its mouth like a jawbreaker it refuses to spit out. When the Friend Gate gets torn apart, Neptune gets sucked into the wormhole and immediately chases down 3 Stargoose spacecraft. Stargoose 5 doesn't make it. Neptune's gravitational pull yanks them backward, and the ice giant just swallows the whole ship with the crew still inside. Now, Neptune continues to follow the surviving crew into a new dimension, but it meets the lunar progenitor. The progenitor does what it does best and uses its tentacles to mess up Neptune. Then a giant alien hand shows up and plucks Neptune straight out of reality. So yeah, not a very happy ending for this planet. Uranus. This planet is in a perpetual anti-gravity lean because it's tilted 98 degrees on its axis, just rolling through space like that forever. But this also means the poles get 42 years of sunlight followed by 42 years of total darkness, so half the planet is in a seasonal depression that lasts longer than most civilizations. After the lunar impact, Uranus showed up alongside Jupiter and Saturn to hover over Earth like the Mean Girls, and humanity's response was to simply not investigate it. Not because they didn't want to, they absolutely did. But after watching Callisto and Titan intercept a probe, everyone collectively decided that sticking up their nose in Uranus was a terrible idea. So the planet just got completely avoided out of fear, which is honestly the most reasonable thing Earth has done in the series. But then the giant hand appears and plucks it out of existence. Now, when planets get dragged through portals like that, they leave behind what's known as cosmic scars, basically rifts in space where the portal tore through reality itself. And what does Friend Industries make of these holes? Well, they exploit them, of course. However, the hole left behind by Uranus was the only one Friend Industries didn't capitalize on for some reason: Saturn. Saturn is famous for having the most spectacular ring system in the solar system, and those rings are just ice particles, rocky debris, and dust somehow arranged into something beautiful, which makes the menacing grin carved across its surface feel especially tragic. When humanity tried to investigate Saturn with Uranus 12 probe, they got as far as preparing to fire the Black Iris payload. However, Titan, one of Saturn's moons, shot out of the planet's mouth and intercepted the probe mid-approach. So that's Saturn 1, humanity 0. Jupiter. Now, this is the largest planet in the solar system, and to give you an idea of the scale, you could fit 1,300 Earths inside Jupiter, or if you're looking for a more relatable 1-to-1 ratio, it's kind of like fitting 1,300 burgers into your mama. But despite the size, it completes a full rotation in less than 10 hours. When the ORIS-7 probe approached to investigate the hovering planet, Callisto came flying out of its mouth and destroyed the probe immediately. But it's not always this hostile. You see, when Friend Industries were promoting their Frontier Friend Station, they used Jupiter as part of the set design, just there grinning in the background. Fun fact, in 1967, 2 years before the lunar impact, the secret tapes showed a space probe catching Jupiter's eyes opening briefly. Unfortunately, they detected this as a mere atmospheric shift and not a warning sign, so the gas giant was already waking up before anyone realized the moon was a threat, which means humanity had a 2-year warning they completely missed. Callisto. The second largest moon of Jupiter has a surface so heavily cratered, it literally looks like it's been hit with the meteorites from that 118 brace for impact show. Those craters cover almost the entire surface, which makes sense considering its entire role in the series is to be a weapon Jupiter keeps in its mouth. When the ORIS-7 probe approached to investigate, this moon shot out like a missile and body slammed the poor thing like an angry bird. And it's good at its job considering it was birthed by the lunar progenitor during the 10,000 BC invasion, specifically to be Jupiter's guard dog, a sentient replacement for the original moon. But after that, it completely disappeared from the series. Titan. One of the most scientifically interesting moons humanity's discovered, and it's also the only moon known to have stable surface liquid, which means there's a ton of potential there for supporting life. But all of that significance gets reduced to one job: emerge from Saturn's mouth and destroy the ORIS-12 probe. So the thing approaches, prepares to fire its payload, and Titan just intercepts the communication signals before turning the thing into smithereens. And just like Callisto, Titan's fate becomes unknown. Unnamed Exomoon. This is what happens when a lunar progenitor gives birth in the middle of nowhere and immediately buys some milk. It was birthed on the other side of the Friend Gate, positioned in the Unnamed Gas Dwarf's orbit, and then left there to do absolutely nothing. Its surface is dark grey and black with orange and red spots, suggesting it's a volcanic nightmare world covered in molten rock and constant eruptions. So naturally, the first thing this newborn moon does after being placed in orbit is to fall asleep, and that's where it stays. Billious and Tedulous. Thalaan's 2 impact moons, named after Bill and Ted, yes the show, should tell you everything about how serious this matter is. These 2 are both icy moons with cyanish grey surfaces, though Tedulous is smaller and darker, possibly carrying less ice and more rock than its partner. Thousands of generations ago, they both woke up at the exact same moment, looked at each other, looked at Thalaan, and mutually agreed that crashing face first into their home planet at alarming speed was the move. The double impact caused global destruction, wiped out most of the Valari population, and completely reformed Thalaan's lifeforms into what the Valari chief describes as unimaginable horrors. And both moons are still there, just embedded in Thalaan's surface, permanently lodged like twin parasites that never left. Episode 11 gave us the close-up view from their perspective, showing the moment they woke up, gained sentience simultaneously, and immediately chose synchronized carnage. So Thalaan had to rebuild its entire civilization around the fact that its moons are now permanent geological features jutting out of the planet's face. Rufusulous. Now, Thalaan actually has a third moon, and it's probably called Rufusulous. Now, there's no confirmation of this yet, but it's just that Rufus is a prominent character in the Bill and Ted show, so people speculate that it's the name of the third moon. Now, Rufusulous crashed into Thalaan too, almost. It just so happened that a mysterious alien ship appeared out of nowhere and fired at Rufusulous, forcing it to just hover above the planet. And the Valari worshipped it like a god, making sacrifices to it and treating it like their deity for generations. We actually get a glimpse of Rufusulous when the POV protagonist and Patrick Fisher are tied to a pole as offering. That's because POV made the mistake of being with the Valari chief's daughter, even though she was set to marry someone already. This broke the Valari bond code and thus made the two friend employees a fitting offer to the moon god. But before it could devour them, Stargoose 6 showed up and rescued the two, along with the Valari chief's daughter. The heroes then activated the ship's moon shield and blasted straight through Rufusulous's mouth, leaving a hole through its backside. Now severely injured and furious, it chased after the spacecraft, but before it could catch them, a giant worm creature burst out of the ground, grabbed it and dragged it underground. The worm likely ate it, so it went from being worshipped as a god to getting shot in the face, having a spacecraft blast through its body, and then getting eaten by a worm. This is probably the worst fate for any celestial body on this list. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.